2 financial things you must do when your spouse dies. All right, so I'm working with a lady today, wonderful lady, love her to death. Her husband passed away a few years ago. He fought a disease for many, many moons, and just sad. But he left her in a good place financially, and that's good. Unfortunately, I think she well, how can I say this? She has a good knack for what's going on, for sure, thankfully. So I don't say unfortunately, I say fortunately in that regard. And thankfully, the husband left her in a good place, because I think there could have been a pretty significant mistake if in the path she followed here. All right, so if you're under the age of 59 and a half, all right, let's just use Josh. All right, so Josh and Charlotte, I die, I leave my IRA to my wife, Charlotte. She's under the age of 59 and a half. If Charlotte rolls that IRA into her own, all right, if she rolls that IRA into her own, she assumes ownership of it under the age of 59 and a half. Any money she pulls from that will now be subject to the 10% premature distribution penalty. Oh, such a bad mistake to make. And the lady I'm talking about did that. Thankfully, she didn't need the money, but she could have. And I can't tell you how many people do this mistakenly. I don't understand. And she was guided by people. Thankfully, it did not affect her. It could have, and it still could, because she's still far from under the age of 59 and a half. If you're under the age of 59 and a half, and your husband or a wife dies, and you have an inherited IRA, do not roll it to your own IRA until you're over the age of 59 and a half. Please listen to me. Inherited IRAs can be distributed without penalty. That is one of the exceptions to the 10% premature distribution, inherited IRA. Death is an exception. Well, your husband's dead. Inherently, that's an exception, but it's only an exception as long as it still remains in the inherited IRA status. I cannot stress this enough. Do not roll that over to your own IRA. Please just leave it there until you're 59 and a half. Then you can convert it to your own. That's fine. Or I hate to say convert, but then you can consolidate, is probably the better term, into your own. You're not converting it in the traditional Roth sense. You're just moving it to your own name as opposed to having it in that inherited IRA. So you got 100,000. Charlotte's got 100,000 IRA in her name, 100,000 IRA that she inherits. She's 55 years old. If she needs $20,000 for a roof, she cannot take it from her own IRA, or else she's going to lose $2,000 because of the 10% premature penalty. If she takes the $20,000 from the inherited IRA, she can do that until she's blue in the face, because death is one of the exceptions to the 10% penalty. So don't do that. Now, in this lady's case, again, the husband left her pretty financially secure with the pension, and she still works a little bit. But, man, that could have been a big mistake. It just wasn't, thankfully. We're not out of the woods yet, but we're doing okay, thankfully. So that's number one. You just got to find out where you are financially. But if you're under the age of 59 and a half, yes, you will have RMDs, required minimum distributions. Man, you're under the age of 59 and a half. Those RMDs are going to be minimal. I mean, you're talking, it might be, if you got $1 million, you might be looking at $12,000 of RMDs. All right, whoop-de-doo. So if it's $100,000, you're looking at $1,200. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal where it's worth it to roll the IRA into your own name to avoid that. Just don't do that. All right. Number two, and this lady here was spot on with this, though. All right, so she's going to take the survivor Social Security benefit at 60, all right, to allow her own Social Security benefit to grow with the delayed earnings credits until she's 70. So this lady was spot on with that. That's absolutely the way to go for sure. But that's a mistake a lot of people make too. I'm telling you right now, I did a video 2 years ago how Social Security is still shortchanging widows. And what they do is they say, if you're 60, you're not going to be able to take your own benefit anyway, so it doesn't matter. But let's just say your husband dies, you're 63 years old, you go down to Social Security, and they're going to say, look, you could take your own benefit of $1,200, $2,000 a month here, or you could take your survivor benefit of $1,980 a month here. What do you want? And you'll say, well, I'd rather have the more money. Exactly. That's a huge mistake. You take the $1,980 a month, allow your $2,000 a month to grow until you're 70 years old. So remember, survivor benefit is different than your spouse, than spousal benefit, but certainly different than your own. So you can take survivor benefit and still allow your own benefit to grow with delayed earnings credits. Do not forget that. You can't do it with spousal benefits. You cannot do it with spousal benefits. You can do it with survivor benefits, though. And even if you're widowed from a person that you are no longer married to, as long as you aren't remarried before the age of 60, and I think you had to be married 10 years if memory serves, you can do that too, as long as you aren't remarried before the age of 60 and you were married 10 years, same thing. So in this case, she's going to take her, it'll be reduced, a reduced survivor benefit at 60. I think she'll get 72%, was it 82.5%? I can't remember how much she gets, but she'll be reduced because she's taking it earlier than her full retirement age, but she'll allow her own benefit to keep growing with delayed earnings credits. Now you got to crunch the numbers here, but man, you got to look into both these things. Don't just go off what they tell you is the most, because that could be a horrific mistake. Just watch my video on how Social Security is shortchanging widows. Social Security is shortchanging. Just type that into my search button there and you'll find my video from 2 years ago. Nothing has changed. Social Security will tell you which benefit pays the more. They'll kind of nudge you that way, and then you're making a huge mistake. So don't do that. So again, part 2 of this. If you have a survivor benefit, take it early and allow your own benefit to grow with delayed earnings credits until you're 70. It's without question the way to go. Part 2, if you have an inherited IRA, if you're before the age of 59.5, do not take that money. Do not roll it to your own. Do not roll it to your own IRA. I cannot stress that enough. Love to hear your thoughts on that. Love to hear your questions. We'll see ya.